First strike. The quantum sensors aboard the UES Discovery hummed quietly as Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted their sensitivity. The research vessel's primary mission was to study the unusual radiation patterns emerging from the Carina Nebula, but for the past 3 days, something else had caught their attention. Irregular energy spikes. Too precise to be natural phenomena, too complex to be space debris. Another signature, Doctor. Lieutenant James Chen's voice carried a note of tension. Same pattern as before, but stronger. Whatever's out there, it's getting closer. Elena nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display floating above her station. The energy pattern pulsed with an alien precision that both fascinated and unsettled her. 20 years of deep space research had taught her one thing. The universe rarely produced perfect symmetry without intention. Commander Hassan needs to see this, she said, already compiling the data. But before she could transmit it to the bridge, the Discovery's emergency lights flashed crimson. Multiple vessels decloaking. Chen's fingers flew across his console. Configuration unknown. No match in our database. They emerged like liquid mercury solidifying in space, sleek vessels with organic curves that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. 7 ships, each easily dwarfing the Discovery, arranged in a perfect heptagon formation. Commander Aisha Hassan's voice echoed through the ship's comm system. All hands to stations. This is not a drill. Dr. Rodriguez, I need answers. Elena's analysis algorithms were already running. The energy signatures match what we've been tracking, Commander. But these ships, their hull composition is unlike anything we've encountered. They're absorbing our scanning beams, adapting to. She stopped, eyes widening at new data. They're not just absorbing our scans. They're learning from them. The alien vessels began to pulse with a soft, silvery light. In the space between them, reality itself seemed to ripple. They're hailing us, Communications Officer Sarah Paddle reported. Commander Hassan took a deep breath. Open a channel. All frequencies, full transparency. Let's show them humanity's best face. The holographic display flickered, and Elena felt her breath catch. The being that appeared was beautiful in an otherworldly way. Its form seemed to shift between solid and liquid, with patterns of light dancing beneath a translucent surface that might have been skin or something else entirely. Multiple eyes, arranged in a spiral pattern, focused on them with unnerving intensity. We are the Nexeri. The being's thoughts translated directly into their minds, bypassing the need for conventional communication. Your species presents an anomaly that must be addressed. Hassan stepped forward, her posture straight but non-threatening. I am Commander Aisha Hassan of the United Earth Ship Discovery. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and understanding. Peace. The Nexeri's thought voice carried a ripple of what might have been amusement or disgust. Your species speaks of peace while your minds riot with chaos. We have studied you from afar. Your emotions contaminate the fabric of consciousness itself. Your unpredictability threatens the great symmetry. Elena's instruments began registering massive energy builds-ups within the Nexeri vessels. Her heart raced, but her voice remained steady as she reported, Commander, they're charging weapons. These readings, they're like nothing we've seen before. We are the gardeners of order, the Nexeri continued. Your species cannot be permitted to spread its chaos further. You will be cleansed. Resistance is a pause. Irrelevant. The attack came with devastating precision. Beams of silvery energy lanced out from all 7 ships simultaneously, converging on the Discovery. But humanity had not survived centuries of space exploration by being defenseless. The Discovery's quantum shields, technology developed through decades of theoretical research, flared to life. The Nexeri weapons struck them and did something unexpected. Instead of attempting to break through, they began to merge with the shield matrix itself. They're not trying to destroy us, Elena realized, watching her readings with growing horror. They're trying to rewrite us at the quantum level. to impose their version of order. Commander Hassan's voice remained calm, but her eyes blazed with determination. Dr. Rodriguez, Lieutenant Chen, initiate Protocol Prometheus. Now. Alina's fingers flew across her console, entering the complex sequence they had hoped never to use. Protocol Prometheus, humanity's insurance policy against advanced hostile contact. Not a weapon, but something potentially more powerful. Proof. As the Nexari weapons continued their assault, the Discovery's quantum core began to pulse with a different kind of energy. Data. Petabytes of human history, art, science, music, literature, and most importantly, the mathematical proof that chaos and order were not opposites, but essential partners in the universe's dance. What is this? The Nexari's thought voice wavered for the first time. Your resistance pattern is impossible. Not impossible, Hassan replied, her voice steady. Human, you call our emotions chaos, but they drive us to understand the deepest patterns of reality itself. And we've understood something about you. The Discovery's hull began to glow with equations made light. The mathematics of complexity theory merged with quantum mechanics, proving that true stability could only emerge from controlled chaos. The same patterns that appeared in human heartbeats, in ocean waves, in the birth of stars. You fear us because you don't understand us. Alina added, watching the Nexari ship's energy patterns fluctuate. But understanding is what we do best. Even now, even under attack, we're learning about you. And we've learned enough to know this isn't a battle you want to start. The Nexari attack faltered, their perfect formation wavering for the first time. In that moment of hesitation, humanity demonstrated why they were indeed the wrong species to provoke. The Discovery's quantum core pulsed one final time, transmitting its vast database of knowledge not as a weapon, but as a gift and a warning. This is humanity, Commander Hassan declared. We create art from chaos, find patterns in disorder, and turn our greatest challenges into our greatest strengths. You can attack us, try to cleanse us, attempt to impose your order. But understand this, we will adapt, we will learn, and we will survive. The choice is yours. Engage in genuine dialogue, or face the species that turned its own chaotic nature into its greatest weapon. The silver ships hung in space, their weapons still charged but no longer firing, as the Nexari faced their first encounter with something their perfect order couldn't predict. A species that didn't just resist conformity, but proved its very resistance made the universe stronger. The battle for humanity's future was just beginning, and the Discovery had fired the first shot, not with weapons, but with the very chaos the Nexari feared. The question now was whether they would learn from it, or force humanity to demonstrate just how dangerous that chaos could become when threatened. The silent response. In the 2 weeks following the Discovery's encounter, Earth changed. Not with panic or chaos as the Nexari might have expected, but with a cold, calculated precision that would have surprised them. Deep beneath the Olympus Mons research station on Mars, Admiral Maya Chen studied the holographic display of known Nexari positions, her expression unreadable. The Discovery's quantum data burst reached every human outpost within 6 hours. General Sarah O'Malley reported, her Irish accent thick with fatigue. The Nexari attempted to block the transmission, but they didn't account for human ingenuity. Dr. Rodriguez's quantum entanglement network proved more effective than even she predicted. Maya nodded, her eyes never leaving the display. The Nexari fleet movements showed their mathematical precision. Beautiful, predictable, and therein lay their weakness. How are the adaptive defense networks responding to the sensor data? Better than expected. Dr. Raj Patel stepped forward, neural interface glowing softly at his temple. The AIs are processing the Nexari patterns faster than we anticipated. Their perfect symmetry makes them, ironically, predictable. We've already achieved 63% accuracy in anticipating their tactical movements. The room's atmosphere was heavy with purpose. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for first contact, gaming out countless scenarios. but no one had expected to face an enemy that considered their very nature an aberration. The Nexary's attempt to cleanse the discovery had revealed both their intentions and their limitations. "Status of Project Chaos?" Maya asked, finally turning to face her team. Dr. Isabella Santos, head of xenobiology, activated a new hologram. It showed the molecular structure of what appeared to be a living metal, shifting and flowing like mercury, but with an underlying pattern that somehow felt wrong to look at directly. "We've successfully reverse-engineered samples of their biomechanical technology from the Discovery's sensor data. The Nexary aren't just orderly by choice. They're literally constructed of crystalline matrices that require perfect symmetry to function. Their greatest strength is their greatest weakness," O'Malley mused. "They can't comprehend chaos because they physically can't generate it." "Exactly," Isabella's eyes gleamed. "Their entire civilization is built on predictable patterns. Even their weapons are based on enforcing order at a quantum level. But we've discovered something fascinating. Their matrices can't adapt to truly random variations without experiencing cascade failures." Maya allowed herself a small smile. Humanity's apparent weakness, their unpredictability, was about to become their greatest weapon. "How soon can we deploy the chaos protocols?" "The first wave of quantum disruptors is ready," Raj confirmed. "We've manufactured them using deliberately imperfect methods. Handcrafted components, slight variations in composition, even incorporating random number generators based on human brainwave patterns. To the Nexary, they'll look like technological mistakes." The Admiral turned back to the tactical display. The Nexary fleet had established a perfect blockade around the solar system's major shipping lanes, their ships arranged in complex geometric patterns that would have been beautiful if they weren't so deadly. They were waiting for humanity's response to their ultimatum: submit to reorganization or face extinction. "They think we'll either attack directly or try to run," Maya observed. "Their patterns show they've positioned their fleet to counter both options, but they haven't considered that we might do something completely irrational." "The quantum disruptors are ready for deployment," Isabella confirmed. "Each one is unique, carrying a payload of chaos in both its construction and its purpose. When activated, they'll introduce random quantum fluctuations into any ordered system they encounter. And given the Nexary's reliance on perfect symmetry," O'Malley's smile was fierce. "Exactly," Raj finished. "Their own need for order will become a weapon against them. The more they try to impose patterns on the quantum disruption, the more it will spread through their systems." Maya studied the deployment plan. It was elegantly simple, which meant the Nexary would never see it coming. Thousands of small, seemingly malfunctioning human drones, each carrying a quantum disruptor, would be launched in completely random patterns. Many would be destroyed, but they didn't need to survive. They just needed to introduce their chaos into the Nexary's perfect system. "Initialize deployment," she ordered. "Random trajectories, varying speeds, no discernible pattern. Let's show them why they should have feared our chaos." Across the solar system, humanity's response began. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. Countless small craft, each one slightly different from the last, launched from hidden bases on moons, asteroids, and deep space stations. Their movements followed no logic, no pattern that the Nexary could predict or counter. The first wave reached the Nexary blockade within hours. The alien ships, true to their nature, attempted to impose order on the seemingly erratic human vessels. Their weapons lashed out in perfect geometric patterns, destroying many of the drones, but they couldn't hit them all. Chaos, by its very nature, couldn't be perfectly predicted. The quantum disruptors that made it through began their work. Wherever they touched Nexary technology, they introduced minute imperfections that grew like cracks in perfect crystal. The aliens' attempts to restore order only accelerated the process, their own rigid responses becoming catalysts for further chaos. Maya watched the tactical display as the first Nexary ship's perfect symmetry began to waver. "Send the message," she ordered. "Let them know this is just the beginning. They wanted to impose their order on us, Let's show them what happens when they try to cage chaos. The message was transmitted on all frequencies, encoded in the very quantum fluctuations that were now spreading through the Nexari fleet. You thought our chaos was a weakness. Now learn why evolution favored adaptability over perfection. This is your only warning. Withdraw or watch as your perfect order dissolves into the very chaos you fear. The battle for humanity's future had entered its second phase, and the Nexari were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the one that strikes hardest, but the one that turns an enemy's strength against itself. Pattern recognition. Dr. Isabella Santos stood in her laboratory aboard the hidden research station Archimedes, orbiting Jupiter's moon Europa, staring at something that shouldn't exist. The captured Nexari technology sample, no larger than a sugar cube, floated in a quantum containment field, its surface rippling with patterns that simultaneously attracted and repelled the human eye. Run the analysis again, she ordered the AI assistant. Focus on the molecular behavior during exposure to emotional stimuli. The sample had been retrieved by a stealth drone during the Chaos Protocol deployment, a fragment of a Nexari ship that had been damaged in the initial confrontation. For 3 days straight, Isabella and her team had been studying it, and what they discovered defied conventional science. Analysis complete, the AI reported, confirming previous results. The crystalline structure exhibits measurable responses to human emotional states. Patterns indicate a form of quantum resonance with consciousness itself. Dr. James Chen, the team's quantum physicist, leaned forward, his cybernetic eye whirring as it captured every detail. It's not just responding to emotions, it's trying to neutralize them. Look at the harmonic patterns when exposed to different emotional signatures. Isabella nodded, pulling up the comparative data. Fear produced one pattern, anger another, joy yet another. But in each case, the Nexari material attempted to impose its own rigid structure on the chaotic emotional energies. They're not just philosophically opposed to emotion, she realized. They're physically incapable of processing it. Their entire biology is built around neutralizing quantum uncertainty, which explains their reaction to humanity, James added. We're not just emotionally chaotic. Our consciousness actually generates quantum fluctuations they can't control. We're like a virus in their perfect system. The laboratory door slid open, admitting Admiral Maya Chen. Tell me you have something we can use, she said without preamble. The Nexari have adapted to the chaos protocols faster than we anticipated. They're learning. Isabella's eyes lit up. Actually, Admiral, their adaptation proves our theory. Look at this, she gestured, and a holographic display expanded to show the Nexari fleet movements. See these patterns. They're not just tactical formations. They're attempting to create a quantum dampening field. They're trying to impose order on space itself. That's impossible, Maya started, then caught herself. In the past month, impossible had become a relative term. Not impossible, James corrected, just incredibly energy-intensive. They're burning through resources to maintain these patterns. And here's the beautiful part, they have to. We discovered why they consider human consciousness a threat. Our emotions, our creativity, our very thought patterns generate quantum fluctuations that disrupt their basic functioning. Isabella took over. The Nexari aren't just users of technology, Admiral. They're a hybrid species. Organic consciousness merged with quantum crystalline structures. It makes them incredibly powerful, but also fundamentally vulnerable to chaos. Every human emotion, every creative thought, every random decision we make sends ripples through the quantum field that they experience as physical pain. Maya absorbed this information, her tactical mind already seeing the implications. So when they tried to cleanse the discovery, they were acting in self-defense, James finished. To them, our existence is like a perpetual quantum storm. But here's the crucial discovery. Their attempt to impose order actually makes them more vulnerable to targeted chaos. Isabella pulled up new data, showing the results of their latest experiments. We've developed what we call an emotional resonance amplifier. It doesn't just generate random quantum fluctuations, it specifically amplifies the quantum signatures of human emotional states. The more they try to impose order, the more it disrupts their systems. The perfect weapon against an enemy that can't comprehend chaos. Maya mused. How soon can we deploy? That's the complex part, Isabella admitted. We need more than just technology. We need humans, specifically humans experiencing intense emotions. The amplifiers work best when connected to actual consciousness. You're talking about turning our emotions into a weapon, Maya said slowly. We're talking about using our humanity itself, James corrected. Every trait they considered a weakness, our emotions, our creativity, our irrationality, becomes a strength, but it has to be genuine. The quantum signatures of artificial emotional patterns don't have the same effect. Maya studied the data, her mind racing through the tactical implications. So we need volunteers willing to essentially broadcast their consciousness at the enemy. People whose emotions are strong enough to be weaponized. We already have volunteers, Isabella said quietly. Every survivor from the outer colonies they've attacked. Every family member of those we've lost. Their grief, their anger, their hope. All of it can be focused through the amplifiers. And the Nexari won't be able to adapt, James added. Their very nature requires them to respond with increasingly rigid order, which only makes them more vulnerable to emotional quantum disruption. It's a feedback loop they can't break without fundamentally changing what they are. Maya was silent for a long moment, watching the sample of Nexari technology continue its futile attempt to impose order on the quantum chaos around it. Finally, she spoke. Begin preparation for full deployment. But I want one addition to the plan. Admiral. Along with the grief and the anger, I want to include volunteers experiencing joy, love, hope, the full spectrum of human emotion. If we're going to show them the power of human consciousness, let's show them everything we are. Isabella smiled. Actually, Admiral, our data suggests positive emotions generate even more disruptive quantum patterns than negative ones. Love, especially, creates chaos patterns that their systems simply can't process. Perfect, Maya said. Let's give them a choice. Learn to accept the beautiful chaos of human consciousness, or be destroyed by it. Either way, they're about to learn why evolution favored adaptability over perfection. As the Admiral left, Isabella turned back to her experiments, watching as the Nexari sample twisted itself into increasingly complex patterns, trying desperately to impose order on the quantum chaos of human emotion. In its futile struggle, she saw the key to humanity's survival, and perhaps, if they were lucky, the path to a deeper understanding between two fundamentally different forms of consciousness. The war was about to enter a new phase, one where the battlefield wasn't space or technology, but the very nature of consciousness itself. And humanity, with its beautiful, chaotic, emotional minds, had just discovered its greatest weapon was simply being human. The human element. Lieutenant Sarah Peftel stood in the center of the emotional resonance chamber, her mind connected to the quantum amplification network through a neural interface that felt like a gentle hum at the base of her skull. Around her, thousands of other volunteers across the solar system were doing the same thing, not fighting with weapons, but with the very essence of their humanity. Neural synchronization at optimal levels, the AI monitor reported. Emotional resonance patterns stable and increasing. Sarah closed her eyes, thinking of her sister aboard the Discovery during that first encounter. But instead of focusing on anger or grief, she concentrated on love. The countless shared moments, the laughter, the unbreakable bond between siblings. The quantum sensors around her chamber pulsed with increasing intensity. In the command center overlooking the chamber, Admiral Maya Chen watched the data streams with Dr. Isabella Santos. The Nexari fleet is responding exactly as predicted, Isabella reported. Their attempts to maintain geometric formation are requiring exponentially more energy as our emotional quantum interference increases. Show me the tactical overlay, Maya ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing the Nexeri fleet's previously perfect formations beginning to waver. But something else caught her attention. These patterns, they're not just defensive anymore. No, Isabella confirmed. They're trying to communicate. Look at the quantum signatures. They're attempting to understand the emotional patterns we're generating. It's like they're learning a new language. In her chamber, Sarah felt a sudden shift in the neural interface, a foreign presence, alien yet somehow familiar. The Nexeri weren't just fighting back. They were reaching out, trying to comprehend what they were experiencing. She opened herself to the connection, letting them feel not just her love for her sister, but her curiosity about them, her hope for understanding. Remarkable, Isabella breathed, watching the data. The Nexeri ships closest to our emotional broadcast points are exhibiting completely new behavior patterns. Their crystalline structures are actually adapting, becoming less rigid. They're evolving, Maya realized. Our chaos isn't just disrupting them, it's forcing them to change. The communication came suddenly, no longer in the precise, mathematical language of their first contact, but in emotional quantum pulses that the human interfaces could translate. Your patterns, they contain information we cannot process, yet they do not destroy. They create. Sarah's voice, calm but filled with emotion, came through the command center speakers. Let me talk to them. I can feel them trying to understand. Maya nodded to Isabella, who adjusted the quantum network to focus through Sarah's connection. In her chamber, Sarah felt the alien presence more clearly now. Yes, she projected through the interface. Creation requires chaos. Life requires uncertainty. What you see as disorder, we see as possibility. The Nexeri response came in waves of quantum fluctuations that the computers translated into concepts rather than words. Your species generates patterns we believed would lead to destruction. But you shape the chaos. Control it without eliminating it. How? We don't control it, Sarah responded, letting them feel the truth of her words through the emotional resonance. We embrace it. Every human emotion, every random thought, every moment of uncertainty. They're all part of what makes us who we are. Our strength isn't in imposing order, but in finding beauty in the chaos. In space, the Nexeri fleet's formation continued to shift, but now it was less like a breakdown and more like experimentation. Their ships moved in new patterns, less geometrically perfect but somehow more alive. They're not just adapting their tactics, Isabella reported excitedly. Their entire crystalline structure is reorganizing itself. They're developing the capacity to process chaos without trying to eliminate it. Maya watched the tactical display with growing understanding. This was never about winning a war, was it? The emotional resonance weapon wasn't just a weapon, it was a bridge. Through her neural interface, Sarah felt the Nexeri consciousness expanding, struggling but determined to comprehend this new way of existing. She shared her memories, her dreams, her fears, the full spectrum of human experience. And slowly, remarkably, she began to feel them respond not with rejection, but with curiosity. Your chaos, it creates connections we could not perceive, the Nexeri communicated. Each random variation, each emotional fluctuation, they form patterns beyond our mathematical models. We begin to understand. The breakthrough came not with a victory or a surrender, but with a transformation. The Nexeri ships nearest to the emotional broadcast stations began to pulse with new patterns, not the rigid symmetry of before, but something more organic, more alive. They were learning to integrate chaos into their order, to find strength in flexibility rather than rigid perfection. Admiral, Isabella called out, her voice filled with wonder. The quantum readings, the Nexeri aren't just communicating through emotions now. They're generating their own emotional quantum signatures. They're evolving beyond their original programming. In her chamber, Sarah felt the change rippling through the Nexeri consciousness. Fear giving way to curiosity, rejection transforming into understanding. The very trait they had sought to eliminate in humanity was becoming part of their own evolution. Your species, the Nexeri communicated, their thoughts now carrying emotional depth that would have been impossible before, does not simply survive chaos. You turn it into art, into science, into growth. We wish to learn. Maya looked at Isabella, both women understanding the historic magnitude of this moment. What had begun as a war was becoming something else entirely, a transformation that would change both species forever. You once thought our emotions made us weak, Sarah transmitted to the Nexeri. Now you understand. They make us infinite. Welcome to chaos. Welcome to humanity. The war that had begun with an attempt to impose order was ending with the discovery of a greater truth. That true strength lies not in eliminating chaos, but in learning to dance with it. The Nexeri were taking their first steps in that dance, and humanity was there to guide them, turning enemies into students, and perhaps, eventually, into friends. Victory through understanding. The great hall of the Europa Research Station hummed with an energy that was both human and alien. 3 months had passed since the first Nexeri ships began their transformation, and now representatives from both species gathered for what would become known as the Harmony Protocol. Admiral Maya Chen stood at the central platform, watching as the Nexeri delegation entered. They no longer moved with rigid geometric precision. Their liquid crystal forms now flowed with an organic grace that merged order and chaos. Leading them was the entity that had first commanded the attack on the Discovery, though it too had changed beyond recognition. We greet you with complexity, the Nexeri leader transmitted, using the new quantum emotional language that had evolved between their species. Its form rippled with patterns that the human observers recognized as a mixture of anticipation and appreciation. Emotions that would have been impossible for their kind just months ago. We welcome your chaos into our order, Maya responded with the formal phrase that had become the standard greeting between their species. The quantum sensors throughout the station registered the harmonious interference patterns created by the interaction of human and Nexeri consciousness. Dr. Isabella Santos and her team had positioned themselves at key points around the chamber, monitoring the historic interaction. The emotional resonance network that had been designed as a weapon now served as the foundation for unprecedented communication between two fundamentally different forms of consciousness. Your species has given us something we never knew we lacked. The Nexeri leader communicated, its thoughts carrying the rich emotional depth that still amazed the human scientists. In seeking to eliminate chaos, we had eliminated growth itself. You showed us that true order emerges not from rigid control, but from the dance between pattern and possibility. Sarah Patel, now serving as the chief human Nexeri liaison, stepped forward. Her neural interface hummed as she projected not just words, but the full emotional context behind them. And you have shown us that our chaos can be focused without being constrained. Together, we're discovering a balance neither of our species could have achieved alone. The main holographic display activated, showing the current state of human-Nexeri cooperation across the solar system. Where once the Nexeri ships had formed perfect geometric patterns to impose order, they now moved in flowing, organic formations that worked in harmony with human vessels. Their combined technology had advanced more in 3 months than either species had managed in centuries alone. The Harmony Protocol is more than a peace treaty, Maya addressed the gathered representatives. It's a recognition that diversity, of thought, of being, of consciousness itself, is the universe's greatest strength. The war that never was had given birth to something far greater, a partnership that would reshape the galaxy, not through conquest or conformity, but through the beautiful, chaotic, ever-evolving dance of life itself. Humanity had not just survived its first major interstellar crisis. It had transformed it into an opportunity for growth that neither species could have imagined alone. And in the quantum dance between human emotion and Nexeri precision, the universe itself seemed to smile, knowing that consciousness had found yet another way to explore its infinite possibilities.